Hello, I'm Debbie Bell Hosking for Finextra TV in the virtual studio ahead of Sibos 2024. And I'm talking to Laura Quevedo of Mastercard. We're chatting about financial crime and resiliency. So Laura, big welcome.
Thanks so much for having me.
And this is a great conversation to have because we're all living in this digital world now. It does bring us opportunities, but it does also bring increased risk. So how would you define those challenges?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. This is a very hyper-connected digital world, and the opportunities are tremendous in terms of technology and what it can do, and it's impacting every part of our everyday lives. But just as consumers and businesses are benefiting from new technology, so are cybercriminals. Fraudsters are able to use technology in very sophisticated and innovative ways to trick consumers, and it's a growing problem. Today, or I should say in 2023, we saw about $48 billion worth of fraud losses tied to fraud and scams. So really a tremendous issue. In recent studies, we saw the Global Anti-Scam Alliance identified that about 58% of all consumers encounter a scam at least once a month, which is a really big number. And in the last year, almost 80% have experienced at least one scam. So they've been targeted by scammers. That's a tremendous amount of people. Unfortunately, only about 7% of people who are scammed are able to recover the money that they've lost. So it is a constant battle between, the good people and the bad people trying to, identify how we can prevent scams. And sophisticated AI is not just something that we can use as technologists and as part of the payments industry. It's something that scammers are also using. And we've seen in the past couple years the advent of really convincing deep fake technology that the scammers are able to use in order to create scams and convince people to send them money. One of the things that we've seen really is this evolution from scams. Originally, we were seeing many more scams that were what we call unauthorized scams, which is where the fraudsters are able to acquire stolen credentials and then use that to get into accounts, move money, steal things, and buy things with someone's credentials. Now we're seeing much more of what we call authorized scams, where the scammers are able to convince consumers to willingly send them money, which is, kind of surprising when you think about it, but we're seeing all kinds of things like imposter scams, where they're able to convince somebody that they are a friend or a relative or even a government agency and convince them to send them money. We've all heard of romance scams, where people are being targeted through dating apps and, the scammer is able to gain their trust and convince them to send them money or buy them things. And we also know that phishing scams, the things that have been around forever, but have become so much more sophisticated. You're not going to see a phishing scam anymore where all of the, words are misspelled or it doesn't make, sense in English. They're able to leverage technology to make those scams and just highly credible and very difficult to detect.
And the sophistication I'm hearing from you, it's not only sophisticated and you say it's using AI successfully, but it really touches people on a personal level. And you're talking about this rise of the scams and how they're evolving. So technology, they're using technology, the scammers, and we're using technology to combat that threat. So what technology is out there, if I may ask you, to help and protect people?
Yeah, so at Mastercard, we have been using what we call AI technology, artificial intelligence. Everybody's heard it is the buzzword of, recent times, but we've actually been using it for more than 10 years to help prevent fraud, detect threats, and identify identity vulnerabilities. And this is, industry-leading technology that we couple with the intelligence that we have across our network-wide view to help stop and prevent fraud of multiple kinds. So over the last 5 years, we've invested more than $7 billion in cybersecurity and AI technology to ensure that we're using the very best and latest technology in our products and solutions. This technology can help prevent against threats that you don't even expect, things that are not yet, things that are just developing, I should say. And the idea is to detect a scam or fraud before money even leaves the account. So we use this technology in several ways. We use it to make accurate decisions. We're able to analyze billions of data points across transactions and identify whether or not there's something going wrong in this transaction. And we can do that at speed in real time. We also use the technology to help prevent against large-scale attacks on card portfolios or on financial institutions. As a matter of fact, this year alone, we've prevented more than $20 billion in fraud through our product that we call Safety Net, looking at that network view. We also leverage technology to help provide transparency. This is where we're leveraging AI in our cyber tools to help provide businesses with a view on their true vulnerability. We can constantly scan. We're scanning 19 million entities regularly to assess their cyber defense and provide them intelligence on what they may need to fix. One of our biggest advancements has really come in the real-time payment space, and that came in 2023, where we really took the attack. We got on the offensive to help find fraudsters before money is moving from an account. And this is through our AI solution called Consumer Fraud Risk. Through this, what we're able to do is, again, look at a network view of account-to-account payments and help predict whether or not the particular payment is really part of a scam. This solution is live with 11 banks in the UK, and we're identifying in real time whether or not this appears to be a scam before funds can move. So we're able to provide banks with the intelligence to intervene before money actually leaves the account. As I said, once the money leaves the account, fewer than 7% of all funds are ever found. We also have been looking recently at enhancing this solution. We've just recently launched, which is a first in its class solution called Inbound Payment Risk Notifications, which is an enhancement to our consumer fraud risk, and it provides banks with insights to help them identify and prevent scams. And this is on the receiving side. So brand new stuff that we haven't seen before, and it's really making a difference when it comes to scams.
So I'm listening to you, Laura, and I'm hearing about all this investment, new technology, keeping up with what's happening next, because as you mentioned before, this financial crime is always evolving because the tools are always evolving. So I know it's a difficult question, but if we were to look into the future, how do you see these threats changing and evolving? And similarly, how do you see innovation working towards meeting this and combating this?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We do expect to see scams continue to evolve and in ways that we probably can't even imagine right now. But I think it's critical to stay ahead of the criminals and the scammers and the cyber criminals in order to protect consumers and businesses and really the whole digital ecosystem, because this problem is not going to go away. At Mastercard, we're looking at it from really a three-pronged approach. One is all about the technology, which we've actually talked about already. Making sure that we're using the latest and greatest technology in order to identify scams and fraud as early as possible. The other is about industry collaboration. And this is so critical. I can't stress enough how important it is for all of the players in the payments ecosystem to work together, to share information in order to identify what's going on and how we can prevent the latest attacks. And the third piece is really about consumer advocacy. How do we ensure that consumers are being educated and aware of all of the scams that are going on out there so that they don't fall for them? And that's really, those three key points are part of what we call Scam Protect. It's our way of thinking about the future of scams and how we deal with it. And, from a Mastercard perspective, we're looking at scams really from three perspectives. When I think about technology, we think about things like our identity solutions that help to identify if this is really the consumer who's opening the account, right? Is it really the consumer who is opening up that credit card account or that bank account? And we also leverage things like behavioral biometrics to identify whether or not it is the user of the account who's actually making that transaction. So we can tell whether or not, through the use of their digital devices, whether or not it is the original person who opened that account. And then I've already talked about things like consumer fraud risk, which helps on the account-to-account side. And we also have technology through our open banking platform that helps to identify and confirm the user before the permission data is actually exchanged. So a lot of different things that are going on from a technology perspective. When it comes to collaboration, we are working across the industry with other financial institutions as well as with telcos and others to ensure that we are having this global conversation about what's happening in the scams, scams and fraud. So we're talking about how we can share data, how we can share insights and information, because we know that there's no way one player in this ecosystem can solve this problem by themselves. And we're also working with consumer advocacy groups like the Global Anti-Scam Alliance, where Mastercard has recently become a foundation member. And we're working with them to help really identify and educate consumers on what to be aware of. And that is something that we're going to have to continue to do as scams continue to evolve. So this is how we're working collectively and individually to help transform, the fight against fraud and scams.
And it's interesting, Laura, as we come to a close, that word collaboration. We used to use, say, 2, 3, 4 years ago, that word collaboration in terms of getting up to speed with your technology. But now that collaboration word's coming back, because to fight fraud, you can't work as an island. And this is what I'm hearing from you and getting different groups and financial institutions. Wow, do you know what? I wish we had a lot longer for this conversation, because something I'd like to go into next are like some of the red flags and how you identify consumers, but perhaps we need to save that for another time, how you identify patterns that are different and how you identify potential fraud. But what an interesting conversation, and most importantly, what a journey, and that journey is going on and on. So thank you very much, Laura.
Oh, and thank you, Debbie. Really appreciate the opportunity.